Season 4, episode 17. It's the Cup of Mets podcast. Ian Bosniak here, Matty DeSantis there. How we doing, my friend?
Good, good. Trade deadlines come and go. The boys started off sluggish a little bit after that, but it seems like we got a few wins. Now we just got to keep stacking those.
Finally, finally, dude. And obviously, as you mentioned, they stumbled big time. And I think I recorded just after the trade deadline. Uh, Listen, it's been a rough go. They got swept at home against Cleveland. They got swept by Milwaukee, and then Atlanta comes to Citi Field and they lose two out of three. And then we welcome in the Seattle Mariners, one of the hottest teams in baseball, who actually tried to go for it at the deadline, right? And it started off in a miserable fashion, right? If you would have told me that the Mets would have turned it around after that, I would have laughed in your face because I mean, listen, dude, time and time again, how many times, whether it be last year or in the beginning of this year, the Mets get knocked on their fannies. And then the next day they come back like nothing happened. And it's like, this is a great trait to have. And then ever since, those dreadful first few weeks in June up until now, it's been you're waiting for the recovery and they'll win two in a row and then they'll lose five, six, seven in a row. And on Friday night, they were up 3-2, then they were down 4-3. Then they went up 6-4, right? And then the floodgates opened in the seventh inning. Ryan Helsley, who's has looked really, really miserable since coming to the Mets. Last night he looked pretty decent. We'll touch upon that. But the Mets lost that game, ended up losing 11-9. And of course, as soon as I saw the Mariners put up a five spot in the seventh inning, I was like, the Mets are definitely going to put up a couple runs here and then make it a game. And then, it's going to be out of hand, right? Francisco Alvarez hit a home run. There's definitely a couple positives going on. And just before we touch on last night's game, which the Mets won, you know, the offense is finally clicking, and I think that's a really good sign. The entire homestand, their offense was clicking. Right, they scored 13 runs in a win. Then they lost 11-6, which the bullpen blew. Then they lost 4-3, which the bullpen blew. Then they lost the game 9-11. Which the bullpen blew, right? But still, the offense has been clicking. And then in the last two games, they've won 3-1 and 7-3. Just starting with the offense, right? Like, obviously, Francisco Lindor, he's finally killing it. We've said a million times, as Lindor goes, the Mets go.
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely occurring. What are you seeing from the offense as a whole right now, considering they didn't do much at the deadline to really beef it up?
Yeah, I mean, and I said during our deadline episode, guys like Lindor and Alonso and Soto really need to step up because realistically, there was nobody that you were going to go out at the deadline to get that could be those guys when they're firing on all cylinders. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it was more or less like they need to step up and then you're going to see a big change in the team. I mean,
Yep.
look at Lindor. He's raised his OPS by almost 40 points, and
Yep.
that's for the matter of a week or two. So if Lindor is going to get hot now, I think the sky's the limit because he's the driver behind the team. When he hits, we all hit. When he shows out, they all show out. And it's good. It's good to see that he's starting to wake up a little bit. I mean, I was never too worried about Francisco. Was it a long slump? Yeah, of course, but it's a long baseball season, so you really have to take a lot of stuff into account.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think I've said this a number of times, right? But April, May, he looked like an MVP. And normally, April, May in any season, he's hitting 150, 160, 170, right? And then all of a sudden, he turns on the Jets as the weather gets warmer. So it's almost like the 2 month slump went from beginning of June, mid June to about, a week ago or so. But it's great to see him, as you mentioned, race his OPS 40, 30, 40 some odd points since then. And he's also officially the first, I believe, first shortstop in baseball history to have five different 2020 seasons, stole his 20th base of the year. He's also hit several home runs in the last several games, up to 24 on the season. Juan Soto's another one, right? And it's also a shame that you got to look at Francisco Lindor, right? And obviously, it's a great asset to be the table setter and the guy that gets everything going. But it sucks
Mhm.
that, we look at it and we say, well, if he's not going, the Mets aren't going. So it's a lot of like emphasis and umph to put on somebody, right? But I don't know, if the Mets can roll from here, I mean, we're not complaining, right? And then you look at a guy like Juan Soto. Soto's, continuing to not only hit but get on base at a incredibly crazy level, right? I think he's up to 96 walks on the year. Last night he walked 3 times. He also stole his 20th base of the season,
Yeah.
right? And I actually read a stat. I don't know if I can find it right now, but if he's somehow able to churn out 10 more home runs between now and the end of the season, he'll join the likes of Barry Bonds and I think another player or two to have a 40 home run, 100 walk, 20 stolen base season. I mean, that's remarkable,
Yeah.
right? Right. Um, so again, and his power's coming into play again. He's up to 30 on the year, 71 ribbies, and then Nimmo finally starting to hit a little bit. Last time we recorded, or I think I recorded, right, episode 16, Nimmo was in the midst of a horrid slump. He looked like he couldn't it looked like he couldn't see the ball, right? Striking out left and right. He's finally hitting the ball, but then there's Pete Alonso, right? And last night, Pete Alonso looked like crap. But with that said, Pete Alonso's on quite a tear right now. And he did finally, since we recorded, he did break Darryl Strawberry's all-time home run record.
Yeah, I couldn't be more happy for Pete. He represents the city and the organization and the fan bases at such a high level. And to see him break that record, we've been watching, we saw Pete come up, University of Florida, drafted in the second round, run through our system like a madman, come up and rip home runs. So to see him do it, it's incredible. I'm very happy for Pete Alonso. Be happy that one day I'll be able to tell my kids I saw that home run. I saw his first home run.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm happy for Pete. I really am. I hope that him and the Mets can work out a long-term agreement, maybe at the end of the year. But at this point, you never know with David Stearns, because at this point, he's going to be a year older.
Yep.
And he already broke the record. So do I see a scenario where they could say goodbye? I kind of do, but we're not here to talk about the off season.
Yep. No, I agree. It was an incredible moment for the organization, and as you said, represents the team so well. I think the biggest thing right now as well, though, is that he, along with Soto, along with Lindor, along with Nemo, he hit a skid, right? And
Yeah.
the Mets over their last 15 games since the beginning of August, it's not like they're playing well, right? It's not like we're on our high horses saying that, they're playing extremely well, right? Yeah, sure, they took 2 out of 3 from Seattle, but they, as I mentioned before, lost 2 of 3 to Atlanta, swept by Milwaukee, swept by Cleveland, lost 2 of 3 against San Francisco. So August has been another rough stretch for the Mets, and we've seen them decline in the standings. They're only 8 games above 500 now. But even in Alonso's last 15 games, 19 RBIs, 6 home runs, slashing 328, 358, and 705. I mean, that's a 705 slugging percentage. That's ridiculous, right? And then it's just so funny, and just briefly, I feel like we've mentioned this before, but you think about it, 254 home runs, two more than Darryl Strawberry. He eclipsed the record by hitting two in that night, but craziest thing is that still you look at 2020 and he only hit 16 because of the COVID shortened season. Just imagine if he had a full season, a full spring training to ramp up. Like you'd be looking at this year, him possibly hitting his 300th career home run.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it really is. But listen, again, we know for a fact that this team is not necessarily the offense. Sure, we could have said that they needed a bat. Sure, they brought in Cedric Mullins, and that's been whatever. But there are so many different things that they needed, right? And but at the end of the day, it was up to the guys to perform, and finally they're performing. We're seeing the fruits, and hopefully it can continue throughout the last 39 games or whatever it is. It's the pitching,
Yeah.
right? That's the big issue here, right? So as great as it is to see Lindor and Soto and Nimmo and Alonso and all them hitting, right? It's the pitching. And the last 2 days, however, we've seen some really great pitching. And finally, this past Saturday, Nolan McLean made his major league debut. We've been, asking for it forever. It was long overdue, and he did not disappoint. Five and a third, two hits allowed, didn't allow a run, four walks, 88 strikeouts. Okay.
Eight
Through,
Ks, I think he finished with, right?
yeah, eight strikeouts through 91 pitches. Conceivably could have got another out or two, but I think Mendy wanted to get him out of there on a good note. And then Gregory Soto came in and did his job. Mets winning 3-1. First and foremost, I mean, filthy, filthy curveball. I mean, I saw, I think it was something like over 3,000 RPM, over 3,300.
3,600 RPMs, I
Yeah.
believe. Was that
Oh
on the
my.
curve or was that on the sweeper?
That was on, that was okay. That was on, no, I think that was on the curveball. That was on the curveball. He did. And the thing is about him as well that I didn't recognize, like he has so many different pitches, right? Sweeper, sinker, curveball, four seamer, cutter, changeup. He was
Well, credit the Mets for doing that because I don't think he had those.
No, no, and that's the thing. It's like, I'll get into my David Stearns rant in a little bit, but that's the one thing that I can really say. You know, the development of the pitching is absurd. And you look at, the Jonah Tong who's got promoted to AAA, the Jack Wenninger who's going to be in AAA by next year, and just all these guys. Ryan Lambert, obviously, he's more of a bullpen guy, but them they're just developing through the system, just unbelievable. And I think the one thing that I can say is that it's just kind of frustrating for me to watch, and probably for you as well, because we've been asking for this forever, right? And again, he didn't disappoint. And on top of it all, like how long have the Mets needed another starting pitcher at the big league level? Somebody that can go five into the sixth inning, right? And he was tremendous at the minor league level, tremendous through 113 innings at the minor league level this year. There's only so much that we can say because we've spoken about it for so long, but like he should have been up a while ago, because how long is his leash going to be from here until the end of the season? And then without a doubt, like, dude, I was thinking the other night, imagine you're in a 3-game wild card series,
Hmm.
right? If he pitches the way that he pitched the other day, I mean, you can't expect him to toss a shutout every single game, but if he pitches the way that he did,
Yeah.
right? You got a Sanga who looked better last game, right? After that, Mania, Holmes, even though Holmes pitched well last night, like they're all like shaky, and Sanga is as well, right? Imagine they call up Sproat, right? Or let's just say Tong, right? It's almost like you want the kids pitching in that 3-game series. But how long of a leash do they have until David Stern says, yep, that's the cap for the year, you're done?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was thinking about that the other day, actually. It's like innings limit on these guys, and you never know. You don't. Hopefully, maybe McLean is good to go for the foreseeable future, but you never know what they could do. Maybe move somebody to the pen, so move them to the pen to limit the innings, but I think that that's stupid. I mean, it's iffy. It is iffy.
Yeah, I mean, his career high before 2025 was 109 and two-thirds of an innings pitch, which was the last season. This year, as I said, 113 and two-thirds. I would think, hopefully you can keep him to 5, 6 innings, and, let's pray that the bats can hit so that you can pull him at a decent time, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, no lead is safe, and it's shown as of recent
Yeah.
with the bullpen, even with the additions. But you have to hope that the front office will let him go 150 innings total on the season, right? So if he's at 113, five and a third, now he's at 119, right? I mean,
Mm.
you
It's
know,
dwindling. If they have a number in mind, it's definitely dwindling.
I know, and that's a shame. And the thing is, it's like, yeah, we can look at all these other starters who, whether it's Clay Holmes, even though he looked really good last night, we'll talk about that, right? Like, if
Yeah.
Clay Holmes is better suited for the bullpen, which we have been talking about for a while, he's surpassed his innings limit by, or his career high by so much transitioning to the rotation. If he's going to go into the bullpen at some point, and they do call upon Brandon Sproat, or let's just say they really decide to get crazy and bring up Jonah Tong, right? Like how much will they be able to go? And that's my and obviously that will shorten the game, right? Because you have someone like Frankie Montas, even though he sucks, you have someone like him in the bullpen. You have someone like Clay Holmes in the bullpen, then who's stretched out that can go two, three, 4 innings if need be. But I just, from what we saw on Saturday, I mean, he had wicked stuff. He fielded his position amazing. I mean, that behind the back grab that he made, absolutely tremendous. Only throw.
Did you know he was a starting quarterback at Oklahoma State?
Yeah, dude.
I
Yeah.
didn't know I know he played football. I didn't know he started.
So think about that. Starting quarterback and then a two-way player. And he was a two-way player up until last year. And he's been
Shit,
able to.
man. He probably hasn't swung a bat in over a year, and he can probably swing better than Tyrone Taylor.
And well, I mean, I know it's so funny. Even watching like Cedric Mullins, like maybe strike out a couple times in a game, even just watching Cedric Mullins' plate appearances, I'm like, the bar was not high at all to break,
No,
when it comes to Tyrone.
to be quite honest with you, I feel like those two are gonna give you practically the same production. I mean,
No, but with that said, even the hits, like the home run to the opposite field of Milwaukee that Mullins hit, right? And he ripped a double last night. He's ripped a couple doubles since joining us. Tyrone Taylor wasn't doing any of that. Like he was getting bloop singles. He was, hitting a sac fly here and there, but everything else was just a strikeout. It
I
was
hear
almost
you.
like if you have a pitcher's mindset, you knew how to get him out, even if you had the worst stuff in the world, right? But again, I mean, it's a shame. And then also the funny thing is, it's like, when did he make his debut? It was the 16th. August 15th gives you another year of eligibility. So that it was complete service manipulation.
It was. It was. So
So
now what is he on the books for another six? Is
yeah,
that
something
what?
like that.
It's like
Yeah,
three and then three arbitration, right?
yeah, yeah. But then it just kind of goes back to the question that we've posed, right? And I was kind of really adamant about it the last time that I recorded because, listen, the Mets had lost X amount of games in a row. They were losing ground in the standings and this and that. It's like, is 26 really the year that they're going to go for it then? Even though they have all this money invested, it's like you came in this year with a questionable starting rotation, with a bullpen full of question marks as well,
Mhm.
an offense that you were relying on replication of last year from Vientos, and then some of the kids producing at a higher level. I mean, imagine if they didn't bring back Alonso, which Stearns was thinking about. I mean, the Mets wouldn't be where they are right now, right? So it just really makes you think, especially if they stretch McLean out to 140, 150 innings this year, is 2026 really the year? But again, when you look at the free agent class, it's not the same whatsoever. So you kind of got to take that right into consideration. But again, I hate the manipulation of service time. You saw the Mets not do that with Pete Alonso in 2019, and look at the reward that they reaped from that, right? And again, we could have used Nolan McLean weeks ago, right? And the one positive is that Paul Blackburn was DFA'd. That was great. He's
Yeah,
no
Paul
longer on Met.
Blackburn fucking sucks. That was a terrible move.
I know Cade Morris, I think, is the
There is some there's some head scratching moves too. That
yeah.
We traded fucking Gervais for Tyler Zuber, who never even pitched an inning for us.
Yeah, yeah.
And now
So
he's a Marlin, and it's like I don't know. Some of these decisions are they
I
really
mean,
make you think.
listen, Tyler Zuber did throw, I think, an inning for us.
Hey,
Yeah,
if I was
yeah,
wrong and he threw an inning, good for him. But
yeah. 2025 season, 771 ERA with 10 strikeouts. Yeah,
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 fucking waste.
yeah. But yeah. So just quickly before we go into David Stearns for a hot second, right? Last night the Mets capped off, again a series with the Mariners with a victory. It was a much needed win. It was in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, for the Little League Classic. It was a good one. I really enjoyed it. It almost sounded like, I don't know if you felt the same way, but when I was watching the game, it almost felt like a 2020 game. When, granted there were so many kids in the crowd and then there were some coaches, but there was like no noise whatsoever,
Yeah.
right? Unless the kids were chanting for the Soto shuffle, which, Juan gave him a couple little wiggles, and then,
Hmm.
I think the kids from somewhere in Pennsylvania were all going after Pete Alonso when he struck out in a big situation. I don't know if you saw that, which was kind of humorous, but the Mets came out on top 7-3. It was a nice event. I thought it was really cool when they showed the shots from behind home plate and you look out and there's literally houses like right beyond the street. Like
Hmm.
imagine you living in a house and then there's some mountains and beyond you, but then you kind of look and then there's just a baseball game going on,
That's cool.
right? Just
Cool.
yeah, just such a sick event, and that's the one thing I can give Rob Manfred credit with. He's done a good job at putting games in interesting locations, whether it be like the Bristol Speedway or Fort Bragg, or just things along those lines. I mean, it's
That
and
is that why you were asking Grok yesterday if there was ever a game in Alaska?
yeah, that just came to me. I'm Yeah, I'm babysitting my nephew right now, and my mind hasn't, necessarily been on baseball. So last night, once he went to bed, once I got the time to watch the game, I was like, I don't know. I was just thinking, I'm like, have they ever played a game in Alaska?
It would
Like
be cool.
maybe they should bring it to like Anchorage, like make a like I don't know the temperature right now, but maybe it would be like a April May game in terms of the weather there now. I mean, again,
Might
I'm
still be
not.
snowing there in May.
No, and no. But what I'm saying is like the May weather that we feel here, maybe if you have a
Mm.
game in August, it would kind of be
Yeah,
similar,
yeah, so it's
in the
well,
60s, 70s, but
yeah.
I really know nothing about Alaska to say that that's yes, but yes, to answer your question, that's exactly why I was asking Grok. So yeah, got the answer. No MLB games have ever been played in Alaska. But when it comes to last night, though, just I thought Clay Holmes looked the best that he has in quite some time. And I think that there was a question that he could have possibly gone another inning. Uh, 5 innings, 5 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 1 walk. Very nice. 4 strikeouts, 88 pitches. Definitely could have gone another inning, I think. But again, I want to say that Carlos Mendoza wanted to play it safe, but it's never safe going to this bullpen. So I don't know if you really want to call it safe.
No.
But he induced 9 swing and misses. He looked great. The offense killed George Kirby. But, just speaking about Clay Holmes for a second, he was missing arm side a little bit,
Hmm.
but he had great run on a sinker. And his sweeper and his curveball were really breaking in on the left-handed hitters, inducing a lot of swing and misses. And then also the changeup going down looked really good. I mean, I really liked what I saw. And we've been talking about transitioning him back to the bullpen and whatnot. If he can do something like this, which again, he's really hit or miss, if he can do something like this, that's a productive outing right then and there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
We
it's
need to start seeing a little more consistency with the pitching.
all the way.
One start, you'll see him and these guys will look good. And then the next start, they'll be out by the third inning because they gave up 8 runs.
Exactly. Yeah. And, even in their best, they seem to not be able to go six. They're still on that record that hasn't been broken since 1901, where, only one pitcher in, I think, the last 50 or 60 games, something like that, have gone 6 innings, and that's David Peterson. But as you said, one off, one on, right? Last night, as I said, great start. His last start against Atlanta, 3 2/3, 5 walks, 5 earned runs allowed, 6 hits. But then the previous start, 5 innings, 2 earned runs allowed against the Guardians. So it's really up and down with Clay right now. But I mean, last night definitely bought him another start. But keep in mind, he is up to 131 innings on the
Yeah.
season.
So
So
I don't know what they plan on doing. If they plan on being like, oh, let's bring up Sproat and shift Clay to I don't know what they plan on doing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, right now, to be honest with you, I think that looking at the way that guys like Sean Manaea have pitched, really just Last game he looked good. He had good swing and miss stuff, but then he ends up really just tailing out in the fifth inning. And obviously, we can say that about a lot of players, but it
Mhm.
just seems like him not having the spring training and then going through the rehab process. The Mets definitely brought him back a little bit earlier. Not saying that he wasn't ready, but definitely brought him back earlier just for the sake of the club.
Yeah.
And just seeing the way that they're kind of flailing out, potentially they could, I don't know, because now you got Frankie Montas in the bullpen, so I don't, and you already know that David Stern's got too much pride just to drop Frankie Montas. Which I think they should do, but maybe you cut Ryan Stanek or something like that, and then you have Brandon Sproat come up, and then you could have him and Mania kind of bounce off each other, right? Because right now, I mean, Kodai Senga pitched well in his last start, but you have Peterson who will go six. You got McLean who, unless the innings are going to be a capper, we think that his game's going to really play. Sean Manaea looks lethal through the first couple innings and then starts getting hit around. And then Clay Holmes is good every other start, right? So I think that's kind of where they're at right now. But again, I think that that would be a good way to go. But I think that you see the way that guys, and the thing is with Mania, that's why I bring up Mania. Mania has pitched out of the bullpen before, right?
Yeah.
So if you have Sproat throw the first 3, 4 innings of a game, you have Mania piggyback right off of him,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's something that what they could do. And you saw when he did come out of the bullpen, what was it? His first outing against Kansas City, he was tremendous.
Yeah.
He was tremendous, right? So that's definitely something that they can do. I just what worries me, and this is the big thing that I said when we covered the trade deadline, and then I've also tweeted it out a million times, and I've spoken to you about it on the side, and I brought it up in the last episode. It's like, you go out and you get Ryan Helsley, Tyler Rogers, and Gregory Soto, right? Gregory Soto has been tremendous. It's been so under the radar, but he's been very good,
Yeah.
right? Tyler Rogers, he's just giving up soft hits. Sometimes he gives up two in an inning, and then it results in a run, but he's been solid. I think he only has one strikeout, which is
Yeah.
just wild, right? And then
Our
Ryan
issue
Hels,
comes with Mr. Helsley.
yeah, and then Ryan Helsley comes in. But even if they were all firing on all cylinders, this is why I said like even a guy like Charlie Morton would have worked for the Mets because if you do not have starting pitching, and if your starting pitching is going out there and giving you, which we've seen, especially over since the beginning of August, since the deadline, if you're seeing the starters only give you 4 innings or 5 innings max, you're using, and considering Mendoza's managing to win every game, if you're using 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 pitchers a night out of the bullpen, then the next day certain guys aren't going to be available, which is going to lead to
Oh, of
issues.
course. Not sustainable to play like.
No, and that's why I just felt like, if you're not, there are only a couple starters move. We know that teams were asking for an arm and a leg, right, when it comes to starters at the deadline. But a guy like Merrill Kelly could have been had, right? I don't necessarily know how he's pitching right now for Texas. I don't care to look it up, right? But I see Charlie Morton, and he's made a couple starts since getting traded over, and he's tossed 6 innings,
Yeah.
right? And it's like someone like Charlie Morton could have been had for a bag of balls.
Yeah. I know. I trust me, I trust your logic on that. But I feel like in the front office's mind, that was innings that one of these younger guys could have had.
Right, right. But then it kind of goes back to my point being is like, how far are they actually going to let them go?
Yeah, you could have let Charlie Morton go until his arm fell off.
Exactly. Exactly. And the thing is right now with McLean, yeah, we saw him go 5 and a third. We don't know how much longer he's going to be able to throw 5, 6 innings a game if the Mets are really keen on keeping his innings down.
Mhm.
Sproat coming up, I think he's thrown 120 innings so far this year, 115 innings, something like that. Jonah Tong, I don't think is going to get the call, even though he was dominant, absolutely dominant in his first AAA outing the other day. Five and two thirds of shutout ball, 9 Ks. Um, Now Brandon Sproat's a little bit less, 104 innings. So again, I agree with you on that. Like, yeah, it's the young kids, but I don't know, man. To me, To me, you just the bullpen is only so good if the rotation can give you a solid like leeway to like the back end of the game. And especially when you go and you acquire guys like Tyler Rogers and Gregory Soto and Ryan Helsley, guys who either have closing experience or eighth inning experience, when you add those guys to Ryan Stanek and Reed Garrett, who were in those roles before, those guys aren't stretched out. So then all of a sudden you have a bullpen full of back end arms. And especially when, as we brought up before, like Clay Holmes only being able to go 3 2/3, and then Kodai Senga has not looked good since his return. Last start was his best, but before his last start against Atlanta, he had gone 4 1/3 and 4 innings respectively on the 8th and 2nd of August. Then you have to have a guy like Reed Garrett throw 2 innings at a clip,
Yeah.
right? Or Ryan Stanek come in and blow up somehow, right? So it's just one of those things where it makes you scratch your head. And when you see, like, for instance, Kodai Senga's last 7 games, obviously he's only started 5 or 6 since coming back from the IL, but 7 games, 31 2/3 of an inning. So what's that? Let's whip out the calculator. I can't do it in my head, but what is that? That's 4.4 innings per start.
Yeah,
Like
that's not good.
that's not going to play. That's not going
No.
to play, right? And it's not just Kodai. It's all of them,
Yeah,
right?
no. I feel like I feel like it's a 5 inning limit for anybody.
That's what it seems to be. And then, you look at the bullpen, it's like the bullpen's not helping you either.
No, exactly. That's why if their pitch count is lower, you're better off letting them fucking ride.
Yeah, and that's why, dude, like this was a question I was going to ask you, right? In the game that they lost 11-9 in the opener against Seattle, right? Sean Manaea did not have his greatest stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like
No.
he didn't look good. Okay, 5 innings, 6 hits allowed, 4 earned runs, only walked one, struck out seven. He only had And again, we also know how some of the pitchers, when Mendoza gives them a little bit more of a leash, how they've blown up, right? But he only had 86 pitches. So if right now, him making his seventh appearance of the season, if he's not able to go beyond 86 pitches, like what is it? Because in that situation, to me, I said that they should have let him go the 6th inning, because then you could have had Tyler Rogers come in for the 7th. Obviously, Helsley blew it, and Brooks Raley looked awful, and we haven't seen much of that. But then you could have mixed and matched in order to get to Edwin Diaz at the end.
Yeah, I know. Like on paper, they have a very good bullpen. Maybe Helsley is just, he's coming from St. Louis. Now he's with New York. Maybe give him a few weeks, but I wouldn't play Hell's Bells until he fucking pitches well.
That rhymed. That rhymed, and I completely agree, because we don't have the leeway to crash and burn in these games. Like every game counts now, right?
Oh,
And again, I just think that a situation before, even though Minaya didn't have his greatest stuff, let him throw 100 pitches. Let him try to get through the 6th inning, because if he gives you 4 earned runs, maybe that game turns out differently, especially considering the offense put up 9 runs,
yeah,
right? So right now, I think just looking at the rotation, it's full of question marks still. The bullpen's full of question marks still. We don't have anything really to update on that. The only good thing is that the Mets have won their last 2 or 3. I know that we went from the offense to the pitching, now kind of back to the offense, but right last night, 3 players in particular that really put on a show. Okay. It was Francisco Lindor and Mark Vientos, who went the opposite way. And it was so funny because I was bitching and moaning when I saw his name in the lineup earlier, because I was like, just keep a more consistent lineup. Like Starling Marte's like a slap hitter. He's doing the job. Like keep Marte in the lineup. But Vientos got a shot, and he had a home run. It's almost like whenever the Mets are on national television, he's able to do damage.
yeah. I know.
He like lives for the big moments, even though it was in front of 2,000 plus fans, right? But Vientos had a great game. I think he went 2 for 4. Again, hit that big 3-run home run, also drove in a run on a sac fly. And then there was Francisco Alvarez. he got hurt at the end of the game, okay? But I do want to say he was 3 for 4 last night. And since returning to the Mets after his brief stint in the minors, 323 average, 1,053 OPS with 4 home runs and 13 RBIs.
Yeah, he's been playing lights out. I really hope he's not hurt, like bad.
I
Like
know.
by bad, I mean like no time on the IL.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just, you look again, like even deeper, 603 slugging percentage, which is second amongst all catchers. We know who's first, Cal Raleigh, right? 992 OPS, and then also 13.4 walk percentage. He's not chasing. He's not chasing. If he's chasing, it's probably like once a night. But he did rip a double and he slid into second base and he jammed his thumb pretty badly. And we all know that he's had issues with his thumb. Okay. He's had surgery before. It really is something that I am concerned about because he really made that lineup deeper. And there were so many different ways that Mendoza could have orchestrated the lineup.
Hmm.
And if Francisco Alvarez is hurt and they have to go back to Hayden Sanger and Luis Torrens,
That's you don't want that. Hayden Sanger can't fucking hit water if he fell out of a boat. So I like the guy. I think his defense is good, but can't hit. Sorry. Sorry, Hayden, if you're listening to this, which I
if he
doubt.
fe- couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. And yeah, and yeah, no, I agree. And then Terren's also, if he's not going to the opposite way, he's striking out or it's like weak contact and it's nothing. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's definitely a big concern. It's not like there's someone that we can look at in the minors and go, oh yeah, call up Kevin Parado, right? Like, no, no, there's
No.
nobody. There's nobody.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a cause for concern. I've been refreshing Twitter left and right or X, whatever the hell it is. Um, there's nothing yet. He remained in the game after his double last night, but then uh, got taken out of the game and was supposed to head to New York today to get an MRI on that thumb. So keep him in your prayers
Yep.
because that's just there are so many other positions right now which you never want to see anybody hurt. Don't get me wrong. Okay, you don't want to see anyone get hurt on the team, but that catching is such an invaluable position. And then you look at especially what Alvarez has been doing at the dish, and with all the Mets ups and downs offensively speaking,
Yeah.
boy oh boy do you need him.
I know. They need
Do we
him.
need
They
him?
do.
So everyone keep him in your prayers. And just while I'm on X, I just want to say Elian Pena
3 home
today.
runs today.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 4 for 5 right now with 3 home runs and a single.
Yeah, that kid's gonna be he's gonna skip the Florida Coast League. He's gonna go right to low A.
Yeah, kid's a stud. Kid's
He
a
is.
stud.
He
And
is. Let's
you know,
hope he
I
doesn't hop on any fucking jet skis or anything.
yeah, yeah, you're firing today. Yeah. No, I agree. I can't wait to see where he winds up on your top 30 prospect list.
Oh, he's gonna
Which
have a nice jump. I think come MLB pipelines next year, I think he'll be a top 100 prospect.
I agree. I agree.
Kind of
Which
hard not to. And then I think Benj will be like top 10.
I think Benj will be top 10. I think Jonathan will be top 10 as well,
Yeah, we
or
might have
right
two
near
top
it.
10 prospects.
I
And then
know.
might have like 4 top 35s.
I know. Look at that. Isn't that wild?
Crazy. I love it.
It's it's crazy how things work like that. Yeah. So, and I mean, just speaking of injuries, like, listen, like the Mets aren't the only ones that are dealing with injuries. I saw this. You never want to see anyone get hurt. I don't know what ended up happening to Johan Duran. I saw that he got hit in
He
the
pitched the
ankle.
next night, bro. He's
Did he?
fine.
Did he? Okay. Yeah. Because when you read that tweet and it's like he gets carted off, you forget that he's in Washington and they have a little bullpen cart that's sitting right
Yeah,
there
yeah,
anyway. So
yeah.
he's
No, I
carted
looked
off.
at, and it took that bullpen card 20 minutes to get out to him. They left poor Johan fucking standing there waiting.
Yeah. So
Uh,
Duran got injured, but he pitched the following night, so nothing big there. The biggest thing for the Phillies, again, as I'm speaking about injuries, is Zach Wheeler hits the
Yeah,
IL, doesn't have a timetable. He's got a blood
he's
clot.
he's done for the year. He's done.
Yeah, that's not good for the
I
Phillies
read
or
I
him.
read something about blood clots and with sports. No, he can't
No,
come back that quick.
no, 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 no. You don't want to mess with that. You do
Yeah,
not want
no.
to. You don't want to mess with that. That definitely hurts them, considering Christopher Sanchez has kind of struggled a little bit. Ranger Suarez has been same with Jesus Luzardo. They've kind of been up and down. Aaron Nola, I think, is coming back, but Nola didn't look great before. So I mean, again,
They'll
just
end up
for
bringing up Painter in a few weeks. Watch.
yeah, oh, absolutely, they'll be aggressive, but just if it was anyone else, I wouldn't even talk about it. But just like, I hope
Yeah,
Zach's
you
okay
know.
because, we're big Zach Wheeler people, even though he's on the rival. So again, just a little quickie that we wanted to get in here, episode 17. Outside of that, there's not really much that's changed since last week. Offense, pitching, still struggling, but over the last 2 days, things have looked better. And over the last 6 games or so, the offense has kind of started to kick it into gear. So we can only hope that as the Mets move forward, they can continue to hit, but then also the pitchers can go 5, 6 innings because we really need to preserve the bullpen and we need to get the bullpen firing. Okay.
Absolutely.
We need Helsley to return to form, be the guy that we acquired. We need Reed Garrett to return to form. Gregory Soto, Tyler Rogers, keep doing your thing. Same with Edwin Diaz, Frankie
Hmm.
Montes. I mean, I would love for the Mets to grow a pair of gonads and just drop you, but not sure they're willing to eat the money quite yet.
I don't think they will, but
No, but again, just when you look ahead, also the starters as well. We just need them to give us 5, 6 innings, man, of like solid,
yeah,
solid ball.
I know.
You know,
I
uh,
know.
but beginning tomorrow, again, the Mets are off here on the 18th. Beginning tomorrow, the Mets begin a string of 16 consecutive games.
That's
Well,
fun.
I know, dude. If this was pre, like a couple weeks ago when there was a new move every single day,
Hmm.
it would be like roster moves galore, like bringing up
Yeah.
every arm in the minors outside of the big wigs, right? And
Oh
uh,
man.
yeah, yeah. But they head to Washington tomorrow, which I believe Rob, if you guys remember Rob, yeah, Rob's been MIA from the Mets podcast. He's more of like a, you know, go to game type guy now. But and that's where you see him on the Instagram. But Rob and I might be going to DC. It is a little bit of a interesting situation politically down there right now, so not really sure. But we may take the venture down south and go see the boys for the next 2 games. Tomorrow night, 6:45, it'll be David Peterson, the lone 6 inning David Peterson, who also has been
Yeah.
struggling a little bit. So would love to see David Peterson get his head back on straight. 7-5 record, 3.30 ERA. He'll be opposed by Jake Irvin on Wednesday. It'll be Kodai Sanga, who hopefully he can build off of his previous start, which was really good. I think he went 5 2/3, allowed 2 runs. I think the bullpen blew that one. He'll be
Yeah.
opposed by Brad Lord, who's a really good young arm for the Nationals. On Thursday, it'll be Sean Manaea, 405 start. Sean Manaea just get back on track, be the 2024 Mania. He'll be opposed by Mackenzie Gore, who has really been roughed up as of recent, but we know that he'll put on a clinic against the Mets. Hopefully they can hit
Yeah.
him.
He'll go 8 scoreless,
Yeah,
11 Ks.
I know. I love the positivity. Love the positivity. And then the boys head to Atlanta, which we thought that we exercised the demons last year with that run at the end. But again, I'm curious to see, especially if the Mets play well in DC coming off the series against Seattle. I'm curious how they play now in Atlanta because even though the Braves been playing a little bit better as of recent,
Hmm.
maybe the Mets can right the ship, as far as being in Atlanta goes. And you can expect to see McLean, Holmes, and then Peterson, I guess. Right? Yeah. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. And then who knows? Maybe you'll get to see Brandon Spurt at some point.
Be
You
nice.
never know. And then they come home to face the Phillies and the Marlins to wrap up August. And that's all she
And
wrote for
we'll
August.
be at that game,
That we will. That we will. The 30th.
30th.
Hopefully that's a McLean bump day. That will be great.
I'm praying.
Wouldn't that be sick?
That
Wouldn't
would
that be
be
sick?
sick. For what is it? Lindor bobblehead day?
Lindor bobblehead day. Yeah. Yeah. And
All right.
yeah, and just peeking at the standings quickly right now, National League East, since I think the when I recorded episode 16, Mets were 6.5 games back of the East. They're now just 5 games back of the East. Take it as you will.
Yeah.
Phillies are in first place, 71 and 53. The Mets are in second at 66 and 58, 5 games back. I do want to note the Mets only have a plus 36 run differential. That's out of all teams that are right now on the trajectory to make the postseason, only the Mariners and the Astros have a lower run differential. Yeah, I mean, listen, the
Let's
Mets,
hope. Let's hope
yeah,
they just start hitting and things start getting better.
yeah, but during their high, their run differential was like in the 70s, 80s.
Oh, I know.
You know,
Yeah.
looking at the wild card, obviously the Brewers are just running away with the Central. They're on a crazy run right now, 78 and 45, along with the Dodgers and Phillies. They're currently tied for the second best record in the National League. And then the wild card, it's the Cubs who have a 4.5 game lead, 1.5 game lead on the Padres. The Cubs are at 70 and 53. The Padres have the second wild card at 69 and 55, but they've lost three straight. And then the Mets sit only a game and a half up on the Reds, who the Mets are at 66 and 58, as
It's
I
tight.
mentioned.
It's tight.
Yeah, that it is.
They
It's going to,
fucking did this to themselves, so no one can't feel bad for them.
no, and Manaya, and I think Lindor and a couple guys said, and Nimmo, like, no one's going to feel bad for us. Like they did do it to themselves, and,
Yep, they
um,
did.
I didn't get to go on my David Stearns rant, but I think just my synopsis there was that you kind of look at and I'm going to make an Instagram post about this. Like you look at every move, like Alonso and Soto, those two moves were Steve Cohen.
Yeah.
Can you name one move that has worked this
For
year?
for Stearns?
Yeah. Clay Holmes, sure, I guess. 10 wins, 25 starts.
I mean, I would hate to. I want to say Griffin Cat, like because how can you foresee an injury? You can't see. But did Griffin Canning look good when he pitched for us? He looked great.
Yeah,
I
he
would say
did.
Griffin Canning, but obviously he's hurt.
How about Nick
It's hard.
Madrigal?
Fucking didn't even. What did he play? Two spring training games?
I don't even know if he played a spring training game. How about Jose Siri?
Who?
Oh, yeah, who? Exactly, dude. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, hopefully next time that we record, things are riding high so we don't have to, complain about David Stearns.
I hear you.
But with that being said, Maddie, you got anything else was as we wrap up episode 17?
No, just hopefully we come out. Was it 16 games straight, you said?
16 games straight.
It's got to come out over 500 within those 16.
Yeah, that we do. That we do.
Got to be over
Hopefully.
500. Got to at least take eight of those.
Yeah.
Can't fucking not. So
Yeah. And so just looking at that, let me ask you, because I assume that we'll probably, we've been on a Monday stretch recently, right? So if we record next Monday, we got three in Washington, three in Atlanta. Prediction time. What do you think the
I'd
Mets
say four
record?
and two.
4-2?
Say they end up losing one from each.
All right. So then they'll be 10 games over at 70 and 60.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna be the optimist. I'm gonna say 5-1. I think that they're gonna start hitting their stride. The offense has looked really good, and I think the pitching can hopefully get things into gear.
Yes, sir.
And with that being said, just a reminder, give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Download the SeatGeek app, punching code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. And last but not least, head over to smackandsunflowerseeds.com, punching code Ian05405 to get 10% off of any purchase. And for Matty DeSantis, I'm Ian Bosniak. Let's go Mets. Hopefully they can build off of these last two wins and you know, let's do it. Let's go Mets.